welcome to another episode of the Embodying Excellence Podcast. We're your hosts, Carlo and Brenden. How's it going, Brenden?
Going really well, thank you. What about yourself?
I'm good, thank you. And had another big week this week. Very busy. Footy season's back. Epstein files are still not being included in discussions. It's a wonderful, wonderful time to be alive, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about comparison.
Awesome. All right. So let's get a bit more specific. So we know the saying comparison is the thief of all joy, but at the same time, we also tend to compare because that's human nature. We look at ourselves, then we look at somebody else and we wonder, what do they have that we don't have? Or what do we lack that we see in someone else? Whether that's a better looking lifestyle, whether that's someone's more articulate, someone has more money, someone has whatever, right? But then the deep question is, firstly, why are you comparing in the first place? Why aren't you taking notice of the comparisons? But then also at the same time, since we do compare, how can we utilize comparison to make a positive impact on the direction of our lives, when you say?
To be honest, I think comparison is the thief of joy, is a load of shit.
You think so?
I think it's an excuse because what it is, right, depends which way you look at it. I think it's more what the thief of joy is: a lack of empathy, a lack of perspective. Those things, because if you're not thinking about why they're in that position and why you're in your current position, that's just showing a lack of empathy and a lack of perspective. By comparing, you get a bit of an idea of what you can be if you put in the same actions. If you're humble enough not to, or to know that it's the actions that are doing the talking and not just you being you, and not being egotistical, not being arrogant and thinking that you're good the way you are. Obviously, we've all got our own good things about us and we've got to be happy with ourselves, but we also have to acknowledge that we can always get better at whatever it is we're doing. And by comparing, you've got somewhere to look at. You've got somewhere that you can aspire to and not be the thief of joy, as they say.
Yeah, I think too, like you were saying, because people use that quote to justify their mediocrity.
Yes.
And so the thing is, it has merit to the degree that you're still executing on a daily basis. You're still putting in work to craft the life that you want, the game that you'd like to play in your own life. Where if you aren't doing anything and you're looking at other people for either inspiration or desperation because you feel the need to connect, and you make comparisons, you put people down, and you put other people who don't deserve to be on the pedestal of your life on the pedestal, then that's where that excuse does come into play. But if you are actively working on your own life and you're always drawing to others for inspiration, you're willing to take that extra step to even connect with those people so that then you're in that same environment and you're growing together, then comparison is not a problem at all. And so comparison is a natural thing for a human to do because you can't isolate yourself so much that you don't relate to anybody. And so without comparison, you have no relation to anyone. That's like a family member, right? If you compare your family, right, you and your brother, you obviously have differing qualities, and also you have individual aspects about you that people like and gravitate towards, and maybe others that push people away. But at the same time, you're still brothers. And so there's always going to be that comparison, especially with family members who don't know what they're talking about and who just love to put sticks in places that don't need to be, right? And start things. They're always going to compare. And so there is the discernment between intentional comparison, where you're drawing inspiration and ensuring that the direction that you're taking in your own life has its own individual direction. But then you also have the comparison where you feel insecure and you feel the need to project those insecurities on others by making comparisons between either yourself and others or other individuals between each other.
Yeah, but even then, in that case, comparison is not the problem. It's yourself is not the problem. The self-evaluation.
Absolutely.
Lack of self-evaluation, your own insecurities that you've got to work on. So the very thing comparison is not the thief of joy. It's them other things that are the thief of joy.
That's right. They're their own thieves. Everyone that compares in that way that we've just described are the thieves themselves. It's not the comparison. Comparison is just it's an inanimate feeling, right? Or not really a feeling, but it's an inanimate action. So like there isn't any sort of real life tangible comparison that you can touch, right? Like I touch you here, right? Like that's your arm, that's tangible, that's right in front of me. Comparison is not that, it's just perspective, like you were saying before. And so then you need to make that assessment and go, am I comparing because I want to improve, or am I comparing because I am insecure? And if I am insecure, why is it that I am insecure? That's the question that needs to be raised, not, why am I comparing myself to X? Because that's the superficial question. The deeper question is, why am I insecure? And what is it about me that I'm ashamed of? Because a lot of the time, comparison from insecurity is often drawn from shame, that you don't like exactly who you are. Okay, why not? Why not, right? And you make a list. It might be a comprehensive list. It might be a short list, but your comparisons that you're making that aren't drawn from inspiration and that drive you to take action, it's drawn from that insecurity. And unless you address the insecurity is always going to be there, and you're just going to be projecting from those insecurities each and every single time that you're making comparisons. And it's a loop, and every person ever lives that loop from a period of time until they recognize that loop and learn to let it go. But until that happens, that's what you're going to continue looping. And it's hard because what ends up happening too is as you get older and things begin to tighten up, whether it's your body, whether it's your perspective, whether it's circumstances, things become constrictive. It's not a coincidence that as people get older, let's use the example of politics, that they're more conservative, right? Like when you're younger, I want to do this and I want to be able to do that, but a lot of the time those people are unemployed and they're not paying for a whole lot of anything, right? But then as they get older and they have more responsibilities, they tend to become more conservative. And so the same applies with your body, your mind, when you don't pay enough attention to it. And so that's not to say that when you get older that your mind's going to be more constricted and more fixed. It's just that when you're not paying enough attention and you let circumstances get in the way of your presence, then that's what tends to happen. Things begin to constrict and tighten up. And so when you aren't comparing out of insecurity and you're comparing to inspire yourself forward, things won't constrict. You'll be able to still have an open mind. You'll still be able to do things that most older people with tightened bodies and tightened minds wouldn't be able to do. But because of that loop of comparison from insecurity, that's when things begin to tighten up. That's when things become a bit more bitter. That's when circumstances become harder. And because you're constantly projecting and looping those projections, you are going to have a harder time unlearning those projections, which is why it's very important to be able to recognize them as early as possible, so that then you do the work in order for yourself to then unlearn those loops and unlearn those projections. And you open yourself up to a world of possibilities, because you're no longer comparing yourself to the Joe Blow down here. You're comparing yourself to the higher standard Steve here, and you're always bringing yourself up. And then you might even connect with Steve and go, oh, okay, Steve, let's do this and this and this, and then just crush it. And then you're no longer comparing out of desperation, you're comparing out of inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's two ways to do it. There to steer you in the direction that you want to go, where you feel as though you're best aligned with. You can either, look at someone that at this point in time that you deem that's on a higher level than you in certain respects, or you could look at it as if someone who is in your life that you've seen take action or certain actions, and that doesn't align with you. That helps you determine what actions to take or what not to take to make you the person that you want to be. And I do that all the time. If I see someone doing things that I'm thinking, like, sort of, why have they done that? Why are they doing these actions? It just ingrains in your mind, hey, look, if I did the same thing, I'm going to have the same result. I'm going to be that same person at that point in time. There's nothing special about me to say that if I don't do them same things, I'm going to be viewed as the same person as they are at the moment to another person. And then I'm not going to be able to be the best version of myself to my peers. And that's going to have a flow-on effect to how they're going to behave as well. So that's another way of viewing comparison in a different way.
That certainly is. And the thing is, like you said, that flow-on effect is really, really essential to understand, because what you do echoes. And so you're not just a physical body and a mind, right? Like you're energy, right? And so it might sound a little bit woo-woo, but it's not, right? And so the thing is, your energy, so everything that you bring forth into your reality is harvested through the energy that you produce in both your thoughts and your actions. And so if you're harvesting energy to compare, you're not present, you're not in your own life. And so it isn't a wonder why your results don't exist in the physical plane. It's because in the mental plane and the energetic plane that you're currently on, you're projecting insecurity out. And because you don't want anybody else to see that, you do it subtly. And because you do it subtly and you think small and you act small and you be small, then you'll always remain small. And so that then has a knock-on effect of who your friends are and the things that you do with your friends. And so if you are that person, or you feel like that you're that person, just begin paying attention to that energy and what you compare things to, whether it's the houses that you and your friends have, or that where you came from versus where your friends came from, or like just anything in general. If you're making comparisons, just make the extra step of observing what type of comparison that you're making. And so if you're going, oh, my friend is more well off and they have more things than me, I don't like that. Oh, okay, well, why don't you like that? They have it, that's not going to change. The only thing that will change is how you feel about it. And unless you question it, that's not going to change either. And so by using that energy, by using that understanding of energy, you enable yourself to then develop the capacity to become where your friend is or what you're comparing yourself to. That is inspiration-driven comparison, where desperation-driven comparison is, oh, my friend does this and this and this and this. I think he works too much. I think he thinks about this too much. All of that, which is commonly known here as tall poppy syndrome, right? And you enable yourself to be the victim. You enable yourself to complain to the degree that by you not doing anything at all, you just become repugnant to other people that actually have their own lives to live. And instead of contributing to that as a friend, you end up then just projecting insecurities onto others, which then makes no sense for them, which makes no sense for you either.
Yeah, that's right. And it's important to not dwell on that comparison either. It's just a moment by moment thing. Like if you may compare in the moment, say, okay, this comparison that leads me this way, leads me that way. And that's it. Don't dwell on it for the whole day. Don't keep thinking of it, because that's going to take your energy for the day. And you only have so much energy in a day to consume. The other thing is...
Bro, I wish I had this advice when I was a teenager. My God.
Yeah.
I was Captain Dwell. My God.
Yeah. So there's that. And then with the whole tall poppy syndrome thing, that's just a justification of your own inactions at the end of the day. And if you're not happy for someone, even if it's just in your heart, you tell the universe that you don't like winning and you'll never win. So if you're always thinking, if you're always envious, if you're always comparing yourself to from what you've got and what they've got, and not putting it down to the actions they've put in, then you're just trying to justify your own being and staying put and not improving, and just being in a negative mindset the whole time. Prime example is Adrian Portelli. A lot of people hate on him for what he's done, how much money he's made and all that. But he's made so much difference to the lives of people in this country. Their mindset, even thinking of what you can actually achieve by putting in the work. Other people see it negatively, thinking, he's done something crook, he's done this, he's done that. But by having that perspective of knowing that you can do it, knowing that what one man can do, another man can do, the whole thing changes completely.
Absolutely. And to clarify as well, you are going to have moments where you do feel envious, or you do feel guilty, or you do feel doubtful, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not binary. And so, like you were saying, like if you do have envy and you hold that envy, then that envy does continue, and you tell the universe that you don't like success. That's completely true. And so what I want to make sure is, for all the perfectionists out there, is that you're not going to have it 100% of the time that you're not going to be envious. There are going to be times where people are going to either do you wrong, or people are going to act in a certain way that either don't align with your values or don't align with your identity of who you think someone should be, and it's going to be a trigger. And so you need to be able to step back and address those, so that then it doesn't affect you the same way the following time. So that then, if that person, then when you then address and evolve over these triggers, and that person still makes you feel a certain way, then that's the signal for you to not associate with that person. You know what? You can celebrate their success from a distance. You don't have to be right there and there, right? It just means that you go, you know what? This person is successful. I don't really agree with the way that they do things, or the way that they say things, or the way that they portray themselves, or the way that they interpret other people, whatever your story is. But you know what? They do their thing. I'm very happy for them. And you know what? If I needed to defend them and their freedom to be able to do and say what they'd like, I'll defend it. But it doesn't mean that I need to access them. It doesn't mean that they need to access me. And so that is another comparison between people that you learn to associate with by implementing your values every single day, and then also people that you associate with because you spent most of your life people. And so being able to make that distinction as well will then allow for you to then also reflect on how you're able to then build your life up, because you're no longer comparing, so that then you're not just picking up the crumbs, but you're comparing because you're building your own life, and you want certain people to be a part of it and other people not so much. And so you need to make sure that the people that you let into your life that you think will be good for you, and also your presence will be good for them, you'll be able to grow, and then make the comparison with other people that not so much. And so you're not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. And everybody's not for everybody either. But we need to make sure that we understand that by making these comparisons and making these assumptions or these evaluations, then we can get a better grasp on who we look like and how we develop, so that then we live the life we want.
That's right. And we can use social media for a positive way, or we can look at it as a negative as well, like with the whole comparison thing. Like you can either, depends on what accounts you follow, Like if you're following accounts that always sort of try and help people get better, and it can compare yourself to that, and you know that by putting in those actions you can get better, or you can look at sort of a lot of influences. Depends on, like, again, it depends on your own self-work.
Well,
If you've worked on yourself, then that comparison is still gonna be positive. Whereas if you don't, that's gonna be a negative.
Well, this is my take. Technology and social media is just cloning you essentially, because with technology, you need a face scan, you need a finger scan, you probably need an arse cheek scan soon, right? Like all of these different scans that you need on your phone are taking bits of your DNA essentially, and they store that information somewhere, right? And eventually they'll be able to convert that information into some robot clone, right? And so, but then you have social media as well that uses an algorithm to understand your preferences and your tastes and your thoughts towards things. And that can also be used then to then be converted into this same particular clone as well. And so essentially what's happening is you're being replicated. And so by understanding that this replication is also happening, you need to then understand also that there is a dangerous comparison to be made from you experiencing the world anew and learning different things and evolving versus this technological replica that will end up being converted, and it'll just be based off information that you clicked on a device, right? And so understanding that, being able to recognize the difference between you and you but on a device, then you get also a grasp on who you're becoming as well. And so that, again, you need to be able to discern between what you see on social media and in reality as well, because social media doesn't tell you the whole story, as you know, right? Because people often just post their wins, or people just often post their what they want other people to see, right? And they don't really tend to take the mask off, right? And they often do that in real life as well, where they're in front of you, right? And they talk in a certain way, they present themselves in a certain way, but then they're completely different behind the scenes as well. And so you need to look out for those people as well. And so when you are making comparisons and you are making evaluations of different individuals, you need to be able to discern who they really are, so that then you're not caught in some crossfire that you didn't decide to be a part of within both their business and in their interpersonal relationships. And so comparisons are really, really important thing. Like, I feel as though that it's been heavily negatively connotated as this, we need to be able to be not just equal, but we need to be open to like all different interpretations and all different thoughts and everything else. Yes, but to a degree, to an extent, like there's got to be a line that's drawn, right? Or otherwise you're just going to have a world where just anything goes. And if you look at the state of the world at the moment, it's basically on an anything goes basis, right? And you can see what's happening. And so that's why having a set of values and boundaries allow for you to be able to navigate life in a way that's conducive to the way that you want to grow and that others would like to grow. But if you don't have that and you have nothing to compare it to, well, then anything goes.
Yeah, this is going a bit out there now, but just thinking, the whole term comparison is the thief of joy could be a term released by people sort of in the know that are controlling shit to make people just be mediocre and just be appreciative for what they are and not want to be better all the time. Right? And if you think about it, they bring out terms that make you do that just to keep you where you are. So even like the whole, like with the term conspiracy, it's designed to make people think that anything outside of the common narrative is not normal.
Nice. That's
So-
that's not out there. That's right in here.
Yeah. So I'm thinking comparison was brought, like the whole term comparison is the thief of joy, was brought out so people just don't want to do any better for themselves and just be happy with what they are. Well, obviously, it's a good thing to be in some degree, but you have to want to improve as well, because if you don't improve upon yourself, then and you don't have a purpose, then eventually you're going to go to a point and look back and say, what have I actually done?
Yeah.
The whole reason of being is to build, create. So that's got a bit of a play to control us a bit better.
Absolutely, and I think too that I think it's been around a bit longer than what you might be suggesting. Like, because even if you go back biblically, right, like you have a look at the way that life was lived then, and a lot of the human emotions and biologically speaking, evolution hasn't changed a whole lot. Then a quote from the Bible: "For those who haven't sinned, cast the first stone." Right? You're already making a comparison there, right? Because Christ is asking for those who haven't sinned to cast a stone, right? And everyone's sort of just looking around, going, "Well, you know, I've sinned, so I'm not gonna cast my stone." And so that's comparison, because everyone can clearly see now that they have some sort of sin, right? And that's already a comparison. And then another example would be when the Israelites went into the desert for 40 days after they escaped Egypt, right? And they were like, "Oh, but we don't like this and we don't like that," and they were just yapping and complaining and whatnot. And God just said, "You know what? Yeah, screw you. You're done." Right? Like, but that's comparison, because they were comparing the life that they had versus the life they were getting because they had to escape. And then they went, "Well, you know what? We're actually not really that appreciative," right? And God said, "Well, screw it. I'm ending it," right? And He ended it, right? And flooded them all, right? But it was there. And so I feel as though that, yes, there is that aspect of perhaps keeping people down because they want people to stay average, but that's been going on a lot longer than we've been around even back then, right? And you look at events of the world now, and they're very parallel to the Bible and very similar. And so I feel as though that the whole thing is a story. And so again, what stories are we comparing? Are we comparing our victim stories, or are we going to compare our victory stories? And how, when we get to the top, "Oh, okay, how did you get there? Oh, well, I did this and I did this and I did this. Oh, okay, when what did you do? Oh, I did that and I did this and I did that." Right? Like, those comparisons are effective, because then you're helping the next guy, and then the next guy is going to help the next guy, and then the next guy. Right? Where at the moment, with social media and the way that society is geared, they're always projecting the victim story. "Oh, this happened to me. This happened to me, and oh, you know what? Let's bond over our victimhoods, our traumas, and all these different things," right? And go, "Oh, well, you know what? That fucking sucks, but we're not going to do anything about it, and we're just going to act the same, be the same, and then complain why life hasn't changed," right? Because what else do we know, right? We're just we're comfortable. Things are too hard. Things are too challenging, and all these stories that people have learned to just accept and swallow, that's what they'll project. And so I know, because I have swallowed those stories, and I've swallowed those pills where, like, "Oh, it's hard to get to bed on time," or "It's hard to get off my phone," or "get off social media," or whatever the yanking story is, right? But comparing stories of victimhood versus stories of victory, that's two different conversations. And so you need to be able to step back and go, "Am I being a bitch? Am I being a victim? Or am I unlearning the shit that I've been consuming all this time and learning how to win day by day, step by step? Am I doing the things that I need to be doing daily in order for me to get better?" And then who am I comparing myself to? Am I comparing to people outside of my control? Or am I comparing myself to who I was yesterday? Am I better than who I was yesterday? Am I going to improve tomorrow? Do I have a plan for tomorrow to ensure that when I do wake up tomorrow morning, that this day is going to be better than that day? That's, to me, the only comparison that should be made. Whether you're improving from who you were before, both in thought and articulation, and in action and execution, and in results. Those particular things. That's it.
Yeah. And that very comparison, that shows that comparison is not the thief of joy. Because if it was, right, and you elected to say the same and not want to improve, then the thief of your joy would be staying in the same place and not want to improve. Whereas you actually improved and got better every day, and everything around you improved, you're going to have actual joy, not be limited in the fact of actually comparing the two things within yourself to want to get better.
That's exactly it. And that sums up today's episode, because comparison is an important thing. It's a natural thing, but stop comparing what you can't control out there and start comparing what you can control in here, and start making a difference in your own life, so that then the life you do build also then has a carry-on effect to everyone else.
Yeah, I think that'll sum it up. Compared to last week, I think it was a bit shorter.
Yeah, well, but, you know what? We're working every week. You'll see us here every week.
But yeah, please like, share and subscribe, and yeah.
Don't be a hoe, share the show.